This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm John Berman.
I'm Poppy Harlow. Top of the hour, we do have breaking news, big breaking news this Monday morning. Terror in the heart of New York City. At least 4 people right now have been injured after this explosion right below Times Square. This is in Port Authority, the main transportation hub there. What we have just learned, a 27-year-old man is in custody. Someone by the name of Akayed Ullah is the one that police believe carried this out.
All right, he was wearing some kind of improvised explosive device, a pipe bomb attached with Velcro and zip ties. He was injured. He is the most seriously injured person in this incident right now, with burns to his abdomen and hands. 3 other people were injured, but their injuries are pretty minor, ringing in the ears and headaches. And we also know that the incident was captured on video, something that is being poured over right now by law enforcement. The president has been briefed. New York officials, they briefed the press moments ago. This was New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio.
This was an attempted terrorist attack. Thank God the perpetrator did not achieve his ultimate goals. Thank God our first responders were there so quickly to address the situation, to make sure people were safe. Thank God the only injuries we know at this point were minor.
All right, let's go to the scene right now. CNN's Jason Carroll is live there. Jason, you were at this press conference that took place just moments ago, filling in some of the details in this morning's attack.
Well, one of the most important details that came out of this is that the suspect, Akayed Ullah, the 27-year-old, is alive and that he is talking to investigators. Unclear at this point what he's saying, but investigators here have confirmed that he is talking, so they'll be able to yield hopefully a lot of information from him about some of the why in terms of how this happened. Again, according to police, this happened beneath ground at 42nd and 8th Avenue. That's just where we're standing at the Port Authority. You remember that in the beginning when this happened this morning, there were some reports that this happened at Times Square, and that's because for people who are unfamiliar with New York, the underground transportation hub connects where I'm standing to Times Square. Apparently, the suspect was at 42nd and 8th, walking to 42nd and 7th, which in all likelihood means he was trying to possibly head to the area beneath Times Square. So we'll be getting more information about that. Again, the suspect, 27 years old, he was wearing what they call a low-tech device. It was some sort of pipe bomb that was attached to him. You heard the investigators say there by Velcro and by zip ties. There were some reports early on that the device had gone off unintentionally. Investigators were asked about that during the press conference. They are still trying to get more confirmation in terms of that. What was really frightening was to hear from some of these eyewitnesses who experienced this when it happened. One woman, she was an MTA worker, John. I think I mentioned this morning. She was in her booth when the explosion went off. She told one of our producers that she heard the explosion and immediately started running. Some other folks who were on a bus were told immediately to get off and to run for safety. Millions upon millions of people come through this transportation hub every single day, and you could hear from investigators who say this is a situation that could have been far, far worse. 3 injuries, minor injuries from people, but this is a situation, obviously, that could have been much, much worse. John, Poppy.
Jason Carroll on the scene. Thank you so much. With us now, Matthew Horace, former ATF executive, and Bernard Carrick, former NYCD police commissioner. So, former Commissioner Carrick, to you, hearing what we heard, the current police commissioner, James O'Neill, not directly answering the question when one of the reporters asked, did he make any, statements sympathetic with ISIS? He said he did make statements. We're not going to talk about that right now. That's significant. And then also, this device, very sort of elementary device, and attached to his body with Velcro, with zip ties. What are you taking from these pieces at this point?
Well, look, it's time will tell on his, whether he was radicalized here or abroad or whatever the case may be. The important thing is that it was a low-tech device. It was sort of a minor device, didn't detonate in a substantial manner. As your colleague mentioned, millions of people go through that hub on a daily basis. At any point in time between 42nd Street and 8th Avenue and in Grand Central Terminal, you could have 500,000 people, especially at that time, the morning rush hour, you could have 500,000 people inside the mass transit system, just in that 3-block area. And a detonation, substantial detonation, would have killed a bunch of people and created mass havoc. So, it's unfortunate, but it's good that it happened the way it did.
Matthew Horace, to you on this device, again, you worked for the ATF, so this is your bailiwick. What we know about it, a pipe bomb affixed to the man's body with Velcro and zip ties, everyone referring to it as a low-tech device. And obviously, he did not know how to control it because we are not even clear if he meant to set it off where he did. But as the former commissioner was just saying there, even a low-tech device, crude as it was, could have caused extreme damage in such a densely packed area.
Well, John, what you say is very true, and it's really not whether it's low tech or not. It all depends on its capacity, what type of explosive is used in the device, the size of the pipe bomb, and if there are other factors like shrapnel or detonators. And until we determine that, then we're really not going to know what happened here.
Yeah, we don't know if you put nails in it, you put marbles in it, the types of things we have unfortunately seen before designed to hurt or maim as many people as possible. Those details still not forthcoming at this point.
And Commissioner, you did have the Governor Cuomo, talking about the internet and talking about how anyone can go on the internet and learn how to build a device like this, et cetera. So to your point, we don't know if he was radicalized abroad or on the internet. I wonder if you think it's telling what the governor chose to discuss.
Well, listen, at this point, there's information that they may have already and they don't want to get out. Right. Do a full background brief on where this guy came from, who his relatives are, who his associates are, if somebody was funding him. There's a lot that goes into an investigation like this, but time will tell over the next several weeks.
Matt Horace, to you again, we're not sure if this device was set off intentionally in the location where it went off. It's very possibly meant to do it on the subway itself or maybe in a line somewhere where it was more densely packed. And it's not that I want you to reveal the blueprints for how to build something like this because Lord knows people don't need to see that, although they can find it out for themselves on the internet right now. But how complicated is it to put together one of these things and get it to work the way that you want it to? And how is it that it can go off accidentally?
Well, the answer to your question is twofold. It's not very complicated to make a device, and I've seen these devices made from galvanized steel pipe or PVC pipe in different sizes and different shapes. What I'm more concerned about as a former investigator is bombers rarely make one bomb. So whether he made multiple devices and has that at his residence or someone else's residence, I'm sure investigators are trying to determine now if there were other people involved, where those other devices are, because there is invariably another device out there somewhere.
All right, we just got this video in that shows the moment of all of this in Port Authority near Times Square. Let's go to our Bryn Gingras. Bryn, can you walk us through what we're seeing in this video?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to give you a good idea, Poppy, of what we were talking about throughout the morning, which is that narrow area, that narrow passageway where this detonation took off. You can see this is coming from a surveillance camera somewhere within the Port Authority, and right there is when you see the explosion, and you can see that there are still even people walking toward the right, running to the right, but then you see that person that's lying there on the ground. Now, I can only assume that there is the suspect, or it's possible it's one of the people that was injured throughout this. We know earlier from that news conference that those injured had ringing of the ears and some headaches, so I can imagine that was the suspect who we're told through authorities had that detonation device on him. But that is the exact moment inside the Port Authority, that narrow passageway where this went off.
And again, as we're looking at this video, and I'm not sure whether the former commissioner or Matt Horace still with us right now, but Matt, if you are with us, former ATF official right now, as you see the picture of what certainly appears to be the suspect on the ground there, leveled out after this device went off, but still, not to be too gruesome here, his body still fully intact. It's unclear to me whether this device went off with the impact that he intended it to. Matt, are you still with us?
I am, and I think the answer to that question is no. If he intended it to injure multiple people, dozens, if not hundreds, and we see the condition of his body, clearly the device did not go off as he intended.
Commissioner, to you, just explain to people who aren't familiar with the New York City subway system. First of all, this is essentially like a sidewalk, but it's covered on all sides, and it connects two avenues or different parts of the subway. But explain to people just the lack of, there's nothing you go through when you walk into the subway. I mean, there's no metal detectors, nothing like that.
No, there's really no metal detectors. I mean, if they operated a system like you have in an airport or anywhere else, you'd get nobody into the system. You know, you keep in mind there's millions of people that go through the system. But Poppy, I want to touch on one thing that Matt said earlier, and that is there may be other devices out there. You know, I've heard some political pundits say there's no specific threats right now in the city or in New York. You know, there is a credible threat to this country. It may not be specific to New York City right now, but there is definitely a credible threat by ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and these other radical Islamic groups, this guy being one of them probably. And, you know, just to that point, people have to be extremely careful, cautious, vigilant, pay attention to where you are, pay attention to the people around you, especially at this time of the year when somebody like this would try to make an example out of New York City.
All right, Matthew Horace, former Commissioner Bernard Kerik, thank you so much for being with us. Help us understand what has been going on. Again, this terror-related attack in New York City, 4 people injured, including the suspect, but obviously could have been much, much worse.
All right, we'll keep you posted on this as it is very much still developing. Also to Alabama, 2